And so, of course, the first thing people ask is, how are you going to pay for this? And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she has one, somebody, by the way, somebody wrote me a letter saying, you stole Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez from Michael Savage, and you've got to credit him. I've never listened to Michael Savage. I don't know what he's saying, but I'm sure he didn't catch it from me. It's kind of a gimme. It's kind of built into her name. But anyway, she explains where the money is going to come from. This is cut number 5.
The first thing that we need to do is kind of break the mistaken idea that taxes pay for 100% of government expenditure. It's just not how government expenditure works. We can recoup costs, but oftentimes you look at, for example, the GOP tax cut, which I think was an irresponsible use of government expenditure, but government projects are often financed by a combination of taxes, deficit spending, and other kinds of investments, bonds and so on.
Well, I get that, but deficit spending is borrowing money that has to be paid back eventually through taxes.
Yeah, and I think that is always the crux of it. So when we decide to go into the realm of deficit spending, we have to do so responsibly. We ask, is this an investment, or is this actually going to pay for itself?
So you're saying borrow the money, make the investment, the economy will grow, we'll pay off the debt.
Absolutely, because we're creating jobs.
That's economics for knuckleheads, economics for stupid people. Like the government makes no money. The government creates no jobs. There are government jobs, but they always cost more than normal jobs. They're actually taking jobs away. They're always a net loss in jobs. Why? Because in order to create the jobs, you got to collect the taxes, you got to move the taxes. Each dollar is being decimated by going through the government process. If I hire somebody, it's like, you give me money because I'm selling you soap, then I use the money that I got, the profit I got for soap, to hire somebody. It's just a clean deal, and I create jobs. The government never creates jobs. The government takes people's money, which would be used for creating jobs, and makes fewer jobs. That's how that works. So it's like but the idea that deficit spending is not taxes is just wonderful. We just spend it ahead. Even on Knucklehead Row, the op-ed page of the New York Times, even on Knucklehead Row, there was an op-ed that was mostly knuckleheaded, but actually said something important. Let's go over to the New York Times and Knucklehead Row.
Oh, hey, hey, oh, hey, ho, let's go waltzing down to Knucklehead Row.
So this is by Stephen Ratner, who served as counselor to the Treasury Secretary in the Obama administration, right? This is not some crazed right-winger speaking the truth. I hate when they do that. This is a guy who's willing to lie. Most of this op-ed is nonsense, but he says, actually, it's not nonsense, it's just slanted. But here it's called, your grandchildren are already in debt. And here is how it goes. It says, Medicare for all, the Green New Deal, free college tuition. Remember, this is a Knucklehead Row. This is the New York Times, a former newspaper. With each new entrant into the Democratic presidential sweepstakes comes a fresh cascade of ambitious social programs to entice and excite would-be supporters. The list of pay-fors, to use a bit of Washington jargon, grows more slowly. They'll pay for this how again? Tax the rich, or take cover behind a convenient bit of progressive dogma. Don't worry about the fiscal impact because America's rising budget deficits and debt levels don't much matter. That's a scary drift of thought, and it should set off alarm bells for all Americans. Vast increases in debt will ultimately compromise Washington's ability to maintain its current array of spending programs, let alone add new ones, and threaten our standard of living. This is from an Obama guy who then goes on in the rest of the piece to blame the Republicans for all the deficit spending, which, actually has an aspect of fairness to it. They've all done it. Everybody's done it. But at least somebody at the New York Times, which is basically now just an anti-Trump hate rag, is speaking out against this kind of nonsense.